there will be a name that comes across the intro, and we can just make a stupid laugh about it. But I'm super excited about this guest that I have today. This is one of the guests that when I first thought that I was going to restart another podcast, because I had a podcast in the past and I was like, okay, this is something I'm really passionate about, something I really want to do. I instantly thought, if I'm going to do this, who am I going to have as guest? What am I going to do? And the first guest I thought of was my guest that I have here today. And so I'm super excited. I've been waiting for this for a long time. The technology gods did not want this to happen. We waited for a half hour trying to get Zooms to work, trying to get audio to work and headphones to charge and whatever. But we are here now, and we stuck it to the technology gods, and we're here. So without further ado, I'm going to have my guest today introduce himself.
All right. How is everybody doing? My name is Tom Clare. I'm the owner and operator of the MMA Collective in Red Hook, New York. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Professor Luigi Windelli, who owns and operates American Top Team Connecticut, and is the founder of Core Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which our Jiu-Jitsu branch is under. And I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for about, we're going on almost over 12 years now. I thought about that the other day. That was kind of crazy. Really reflecting on it. Couldn't be happier. My professor is also a black belt in RMA, which is reality martial arts. So like real life fighting. He does a lot of work with the Air Force and a lot of the soldiers, a lot of law enforcement. So I love jiu-jitsu. It's my life. My wife and I operate and run the gym. That's what we do.
That's great, man. And, with all that being said, obviously there's a very clear direction of where to take this interview right from the beginning. So let's just jump right into it.
Oops.
Aliens. What's up with those motherfuckers, man? So, seriously, What's the deal? Are we fucked? Are they going to come get us, or what's going on?
Aliens. I don't know, man. If we're gonna go down that road that quick, I don't think they're coming to get us, honestly. If we're really going to talk about that, I could talk about that.
Well,
right?
Man, I told you.
All right. Yeah.
I told you when we were talking about this originally. I said, "Listen, I'm going to throw a curveball at you at some point that you're not going to expect whatsoever."
Right there.
I figure, what's better than right after your introduction, we're getting super deep into the mixed martial arts, which we're obviously going to cover. But man, what a way to throw you off the scent right there. So aliens,
like the cut of your jib, sir. Like the cut of your jib.
What's up with those motherfuckers?
I think what I think. Obviously, I don't know. I'm far from a specialist in metaphysics, but honestly, from the age of 8, I picked up an Unsolved Mysteries book in the library, and I got so hooked on UFOs and Bigfoot and all that shit that it got to the point where, to this day, that's literally the only thing I watch is conspiracy theories and all this other crazy crap. And that's cool. And my kids talk about it. I once told my son that my old footprint in the snow was a Sasquatch footprint. He is 100% sold on the fact that Sasquatch is in our backyard. Cash really thinks Sasquatch lives in our backyard. But I think that with aliens, though, I personally have seen some shit twice that I can't explain. I actually posted on social media the last time. Once was when I was very young, and the second time was with my wife, Kels, in the car. And we've seen those videos that the US has put out of the white balls that are flying through the sky and top speed, and the Navy's tracking them. We saw this thing. It looked like a light that was and honestly, it's just we'll go deep. I watched the Joe Rogan Experience. I'm a fan of Eddie Bravo, right? So Lieutenant Fravor, the guy that actually had that
that's the Tic Tac.
That exactly the Tic Tac. Yeah. He explained it it was like watching a ping pong ball in a cup in the air. And honestly, that one night we're out and I'm watching this and I thought it was a comet because it was going really fast, and I was like, oh, a shooting star, but then it stopped, and I was like, what the fuck? And I looked at Kels, and she was like, holy shit. And then it went up like, but not like up, like you didn't see the trail. It stopped and then it appeared up. It then slowly went over, dropped down, and then like fucking disappeared. And like I had posted on like my Facebook, I was like, dude, did anybody just watch that shit over the Hudson Valley? Like, you know, like right now, like at that point in time, we were coming back from my parents' house and we were going the back road through Saugerties. They live over in Boyceville. So we were coming like back outside of 28 up on the back way, and we saw that. It was crazy. So I think, and then so I've always been obsessed. So that being said, I've seen stuff. I feel like it's two things. One, they're really from another galaxy. They're from a different like planet, and they're here just to be like checking us out. I don't know, like a zoo, maybe, or maybe it's us.
You know,
like,
I really, that is the most intriguing thing to me. So there's the one thing that there's the joke, you know, especially on Rogan. Me and you are both fans of Rogan's kind of why I brought this up. But you know, the simulation thing is so intriguing to me. That whole thing, like this whole thing's a simulation.
Dude,
How would you know? I'm also a really big fan of Rick and Morty. I don't know if you are, but one of the
I let my child watch Rick and Morty.
That's
okay,
and that's
Rick and Morty. I know people are gonna be shitty about it. Okay, and he's 6. I don't give a fuck. But here's the thing: like Rick and Morty, there's some like solid stuff about just like life and just how the world works, and then just like science. You have,
Well,
I'm a fan.
The simulation episode, I think it's in season 2. If I'm going to try and get like super nerdy on it, that episode was actually kind of eye-opening. So you listen to it on Rogan, and then you listen to you watch that episode of Rick and Morty where they're just running in a simulation, and only when there's a glitch in the simulation do they realize, oh shit, wait, this is not real life, you know? So that's interesting to me. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I just find that very entertaining subject to discuss. But what I do think is what you said. There's no way that there's not something else out there. I think that's that's a really myopic way to think that we're the only thing that exists.
No, 100%.
That's so dumb. But that being said, it's also very intriguing that what if that is humans in the future that have invented some sort of time travel
that came
coming back and either one trying to warn us to stop doing something stupid that's going to destroy the earth, or two, you know, whatever. I mean, the possibilities
trying
are
to
endless.
Steer us in the direction to, you know, prevent maybe something we were doing.
Right.
Like that's no, it's crazy, man. I do think that something's here though, because I'm past the CGI thing with what I've seen with my own eyes, and a lot of the like, you know, I mean, sometimes you just watch like a video and like it's when it's from like a cell phone on a plane,
right?
It's like, all right, what do we like? Come on, like let's be real.
Here's the problem with this whole subject: that Sasquatch and ghost, which I'm a believer, obviously big time in ghost. There's not even a thing for me to believe. It's just a fact. And I think we lost your video there, Tom.
Hold on, I should be back up.
Okay,
yep. No, there was a phone call. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So that's not even a question to me. That is a 100% fact. You know, Sasquatch, I don't know, but here's the thing that is what hurts all of the arguments is there's so much bullshit out there for everything. There's always the shitty camera video, and there's always the nut job that's like, this is real. I saw it with my own eyes. I swear to God. You know,
have you ever seen the guy that has the Bigfoot dick on YouTube? Have you seen that, dude? Do you you haven't? Oh, you gotta go deep.
You gotta send me the link.
Oh my God. Yeah, this guy like claims that his dad shot a Bigfoot back in the day. And like I honestly can't remember the channel, but I'm sure if somebody's listening out there and watches YouTube, you've come across this, like if you're really going deep. This dude like ate a piece of Bigfoot's like foot, said that it like he like cut it up, had it in a freezer for years, then thawed it out, and then like had the head, like a foot, a hand, and you know, obviously the dick. And that was of course the best video, you know.
Right.
And it was like this whole thing where like it was nuts, man.
Well, it's people like that.
That's crazy. It's all fake. Like that was like the most bullshit stuff I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure it was like straight up comedy. Honestly, it was funny. It's worth a watch.
And even the Nelk Boys, like on YouTube, they went, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they went to this guy who's like a Bigfoot expert, the Nelk Boys. And basically they trick him with the like most BS Bigfoot costume ever. And because he wants to believe it so bad, he 100% believes that it's there when it's so very clearly somebody in a costume.
Yeah.
So You know,
Absolutely,
unfortunately, if there is any truth to it, it's going to literally take something beaming down, being broadcasted on national television, indisputable evidence that it's
absolutely, yeah.
true, or else there's always going to be this debate back and forth.
I honestly think if there's any truth to it, it's going to be in British Columbia.
Why is that?
I think British Columbia, like in like British Columbia, the region. I
Yeah.
think that is probably where, if we ever find proof of like Bigfoot or Sasquatch, it's going to be there, because I think that's where the most credible evidence comes out of,
Oh, okay.
is British
That's interesting.
Columbia.
I
Yeah.
never heard of that specific location being a
It's like
hotbed
Canada.
for. Gotcha. Well, no, I know. Okay, I know what British Columbia is. I'm saying I never heard that British Columbia was a hotbed for
Yeah,
activity or anything.
check it out. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. So let's get into like the whole journey. I'm super interested in, obviously this is something that we both love. For people that don't know, I'm a student of Tom's. We joined the gym in January, I believe, of last year. And from day one, I want to get into this part of it later, but from day one, it was like instantly like a family mentality. And obviously it's a family business. It's you and your wife, and your son's always running
Absolutely,
around
yep.
in there, and it's great.
Yep.
But like from day one, you instantly feel like you belong there. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, if you had any experience or not. And I think because of that, I was hooked from the first day I went there. I was like, okay, when's the next class? Because can it be tomorrow? Because I want to be there again. So we'll get into you owning that business, but first let's take it back to when you first started. Why was this something that interested you? Why were you so interested in getting into mixed martial arts or Brazilian jiu-jitsu? When did you start? What was your influences? And let's go down that journey as to why.
Fuck Jersey, bro. All right. No offense, Jersey. I go to you guys a lot,
bit.
but I don't like to be there. I'm sorry. Okay. I survived smelling your air in the summer, so that says a lot.
Jeez.
Yeah. No. So how this all started was it's kind of funky. So I had a rough childhood. I was always kind of like a scrapper. When I say kind of, I was suspended in the double digits for fighting in school. And I just had a rough childhood, and that stemmed from a lot of it. And I had a lot of misplaced anger, and throughout my earlier adolescent life, I'm 36, by the way, and I'm going to talk to you. You're like, oh, this guy's 36. He's talking about his early adolescent life. What the fuck does he know? Give me a second. Hold my beer. Let me tell you something. Okay. So I got married at a very early age out of high school. I was into music heavily. I played guitar. I still play guitar. I don't do it the way I used to do it anymore. I used to play it as like if it was my profession. But now it's kind of just a thing I do for myself. But what I started to do is I started joining bands and like trying to like start something. And that bloomed into me getting into death metal. And I played death metal for like the longest time. And that was like, I'm like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I had a problem in a band scenario where I was a lead guitar player. So if it wasn't just one guitar player and there was another lead guitar player, I had a good friend of mine at the time who was another lead guitar player. He had asked me to join his band. It's the tattoo on my neck. Great band, great bunch of dudes. Me and him butted heads a lot because honestly, I had this like alpha thing going on, and he was a lead guitar player. So even though he wasn't really an alpha, he like really pushed to have things done his way as well. So in a way he was. So like we butted heads a lot, It got to the point where after so long, it was just it was crazy. You're like, how the hell does this lead to martial arts? Here it comes. So out of nowhere, I get cancer. I had a lump in my neck, lymph node, and it swelled to the point of a ping pong ball. And I like didn't really think about it at first. I felt one day and I felt this little lump, and I'm like, yeah, it's just whatever. And then like over the period of like, let's say like 4 to 6 months, it got to the point where it was like a ping pong ball. and it was like sticking out to the point where if I turned my head, and I was way heavier than I am now at that time, I was like close to 300 pounds. Like I turned my head, you would see like a lump like protruding from my neck. You know, my wife at the time, she had said to me, you should get that checked out. And I was just like, oh, I don't know, man. It's a swollen gland. Honestly, I don't think I cared. Like I was living a pretty crazy lifestyle at the time. Finally, one day I woke up with a lump in my neck and I had zero energy. I felt like there was nothing there. And I knew something was wrong. It was like, you actually, if you talk to a lot of actually cancer patients, you'll get the same thing. Like sometimes it just happens. You could have all these symptoms leading up to it. And I did. I had fevers. I had night sweats. These are all symptoms of lymphoma, by the way. The one day that I woke up and I just like, it just felt laboring to pick shit up. And I don't do anything. I was just a fat guy that played guitar and like drank. That's all I did. So it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why am I exhausted? Then the next day was worse. And I was like, I got to go see a doctor. And that's when I saw a doctor, and he had put me into a scare tactic scenario because I was a smoker at the time. I smoked cigarettes. I haven't touched tobacco since then.
Yeah, I got it.
So what ends up happening is he does a cytology report, which is where they stick a needle into this lump in your neck, which sucked asshole, and they draw it out, and they take the fluid, and they analyze it, and they're going to tell you if it's cancer. But while he's doing this, he essentially is like berating me the whole time about how I smoked and how I'm young and I'm ruining my life. And then it was a traumatic experience for me. But now I look back at that shit, and that was like, I think that was the changing point for me. That's where I realized, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know? So I went back to this drive to feel the need to fight. That's honestly the truth. Like I started being like, I'm going to fight cancer, right? I'm going to fight this. I ended up switching doctors after he did the cytology thing. I went to this doctor, Dr. Alfonso Coutinho. If anybody's suffering from leukemia or any sort of blood-borne cancers, I would highly recommend him. I owe that man my life twice. And we'll get to the second time in a second. I went to him and he was like, well, dude, the bedside manner of that man is, I can't say it. Like he made me feel like I wasn't going to die. Like the other dude did. The other dude made me feel like I fucked up and this is it. Like, but he was like, listen, man, you know, like you have a life ahead of you. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's what it was. When I saw him, he actually cut the whole lymph node out. And they took it out, and I had to go to the surgery. They took it out of my neck. That was the first of many major surgeries I've had. And honestly, only 2 of them have been from cancer. The rest were all from jiu-jitsu. But I digress. So they cut open the lymph node. They look at the inside of it, and they could actually just tell by looking at how it looks that if it has cancer or not in some way. I don't know how it works, but they know. So he called me up and he was really chill on the phone. He's like, hey, listen, you got a second? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, you know, your report came back. We looked at the lymph node. We did the biopsy, and it's pretty much showing, you know, positive for Hodgkin lymphoma. And I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. I'm like, right, cool. That's cool, right? It's not cancer.
Positive, yeah,
like, no.
Positive's a good
thing, and
he
was like, no, it's cancer. And I was like, oh, there's other words for cancer. It's not just cancer, you know? And I was like, great. So he then tells me, though, it's in what I had was an acute form. It was actually very slow moving through my body. So how this works is it would affect you from the lymph nodes in your neck first and move down your whole entire body. And then my form, though, was it would start here, but then it would actually like take like a pause. It would almost like go into like a dormant stasis and then continue to spread. And then again. So my whole childhood life, I had weird like issues with fevers and shit like that. And I'm pretty sure it was just this. And I worked around I was a mechanic for a long time. And even like growing up, I was around like a mechanic environment, had a lot of access to hazardous materials I probably didn't use properly. I ate a lot of shitty food, thus me at the time being 300 pounds, right? So there's a lot of things I can attribute to what maybe caused it. I never really will know. I do know though that after this happened, something just woke up inside of me when he was like, "You got cancer." Like, I went home that day. I was by myself. My wife at the time was at work. My ex-wife now, she was at work, and I played the TNA shitty video game that had come out. And that's literally what I did for like 2 hours. And probably longer than that. And I stopped and I got up and I smoked my last cigarette that I ever smoked again in my life outside of my porch. And something flipped. And my wife called me on her break. I told her I had work. I had cancer. Obviously, that was rough for her to deal with at the time.
Probably something that's not brought over on the phone, but hey.
No. I mean, hey, they told me on the phone, and this was before COVID. Now I can only imagine. Like, if anybody's been told right now they've had cancer over the phone during COVID, I feel you.
Jeez.
It sucks. Yeah. So when that happened, I don't know, something changed, and I started like taking all these little pieces of like martial arts that I had screwed with over the years growing up and everything, and had like messed with. There were guys that I met in the band that were into like this one dude was like a kung fu guy. I met a bunch of karate black belts over the years. And while I was like fighting people, I got into a fight with this one guy that actually knew jujitsu once, and he took my back and he didn't even put me in a rear naked choke, lucky for me, but he put his arm around my neck. And I just always remember being so fucking helpless, where I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Right.
And I mean, it was a fight, but we're like friends and we're like fighting each other. It was like more like a fun thing. But when that shit happened, I was like, okay, this is something I need to learn. And I can't explain it. I beat cancer, luckily. And then I had spot radiation. I never went on chemo. A lot of people think that I went on chemo for some reason, which is something I never did.
It's probably just something that everybody assumes. I mean, people. I mean, even myself. I mean, both of my stepfather and my mother are in the medical field. I don't know shit about cancer, man. You know, I think everybody just assumes if you have cancer, you go through chemo, right? So I think that's probably just what they thought.
Well, you know, chemo is radiation, just like, I mean, it's like just a form of it's an injecting radiation. Like, you know, they inject it into you, and that's why like everything kind of like falls apart. My hair fell out because I had radiation on my neck. So they did spot radiation where I'd have to go. I would have to lay down on a bed. They'd like strap you in. You had this like latex mask that you had to get fitted to your face, which was like a scene from fucking Hellraiser, honestly. I hope they made that better because that sucked. But you put it over your head and you lay down and like you're strapped in, and these lasers just really quickly just like zap into the cancer spots. And I have still dots tattooed on me, where they're like the lasers have to pinpoint, because you have to get these like little pinprick dots tattooed on you. So when that happened, it was crazy, man, because like the first 2 times you don't feel anything. You're like, fuck it, I'm good, right? And then the third week I left there, I got a like kind of like a sunburn rash started developing on where they were treating it. And then it got so bad where I needed like cream all the time. My skin was raw. But dude, the worst was my throat. My throat, I couldn't drink. Like even water was painful. And they gave me a liquid opiate to deal with it. Or I've never to this day, with the best weed I've encountered, felt anything that was like what this did to you. Like you drank it and you were just numb, but you were numb. You didn't eat. So I started losing a lot of weight. one day I woke up and I went to rub the back of my head, like to scratch the back of my head after I put my head up from the pillow, and I did it and I had no hair. And I was like, what the fuck? And I did this, and I swear to you, as I did this, my hair fell off.
Jesus, man.
And yeah, it was crazy. And I started to feel like, you know, like there was a time in that where I was like, I'm probably gonna die, even though they're like telling me all this stuff. It sucked, but I did it, and I kept moving forward. I got better. I made it through. I really understood what pain was. And man, when I got better, I was like, this is so stupid. But I was walking past fucking Spencer's, okay? And there was a cutout at the time of Frank Mir, okay?
The gorgeous Frank Mir.
And I'm like, I looked and I just thought about everything with martial arts and just where my life was going and how I felt. And I was just like, I'm going to fucking fight. I'm going to do it. And that was it. That was the fucking deciding moment in my life. The next day, it was almost like the stars aligned. I was driving my newborn daughter, my daughter Logan, down to Poughkeepsie, and I heard this advertisement for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was in the plaza. It was Black and Blue MMA at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna fucking do it. Like, I'm gonna do it. And I signed up. I took one class and I never stopped. I took one class and I never stopped. From that moment forward, I kept going no matter where I was. And I mean, we can get into other stuff, but that's how I started.
Okay.
That was it.
So
it was cancer.
Well, that's a crazy story, man. And obviously it's terrible that you had to go through all that, but I guess the light at the end of the tunnel is everything you have now is because of what you had to go through then, right? So
I'm pretty positive if I didn't get cancer, I would have died.
Well,
that's how I feel. That the way that I was living at the time, if that cancer, I say this, a lot of people have said it, but I'm serious. Cancer saved my life.
That's
Cancer
a powerful
saved my
statement.
life.
Yeah, man, that's a powerful statement. That's a hell of a story. So from when you took your first class, now how long from your first class to your first fight? Because you're hooked, right? So you're hooked. So you go into it. Now, some people, you know, if you hear other interviews from fighters, like some people like Max Holloway, he's like took his first fight 9 days after his first training. Some people train for 9 years and never take a fight. So how long after that first day when you're in that gym for the first time to your first fight?
I want to say I'm not going to be able to give an accurate statement.
That's fine.
Because it's been a minute now. I'm going to say it was 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
It was under a year. I was still a white belt. I had gotten, no, it definitely was 6 to 8 months because I had, it was definitely, yeah. I had a Muay Thai fight first. That was the first fight I ever took. When I started, it was just jiu-jitsu. I only did jiu-jitsu. And my coach, JJ at the time, from Stockade Muay Thai now, he was, you know, like I would come into the gym and do jiu-jitsu and then Muay Thai would be starting and he'd be like, you staying for Thai? And I'd be like, nah, you know, I got to give it a couple of months. Well, after a couple of months, like he kind of like called me on it. He was like, well, you said you would give it a couple of months. So you're going to try it, you know? And I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll do it. Right. So then I did it. And I loved it. And so when I started at, like, originally it was all for jiu-jitsu because I thought from my experience on, you know, growing up in all the scraps I had, right, and all the fights that I got into, I felt that grappling was supreme, and I thought that Brazilian jiu-jitsu was the king of grappling. Really, I always thought wrestling was first, but once I was introduced to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I'm like, well, this is just wrestling with no rules. You can choke the guy or break his arm.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I love it. You know, where do you go wrong? So once that happened and I got into that, it was easier to get into other martial arts. So finally, when he kind of like called me on it and told me to do it, and I tried it and I loved it. I actually kind of made a jump from jiu-jitsu right to MMA. And I started training for MMA. I started training in the cage. I started training with a bunch of cool guys. like that I knew from around the area growing up, but not really knew and didn't really understand who they were. But then once we met in the gym, I was like, oh shit, like, okay, you guys, like a bunch of dudes from Kingston. Like my boxing coach that is still my boxing coach, Coach Finch, Finch. He's been around in my martial arts life probably since the beginning. So like I've known, even to this day, I'm fortunate enough to say that I still actually have a lot of those people close to me. But when we started, like it was crazy, man. And that was really the only time in my life that I really had, in my opinion, like that I really had like balance and structure. And like watching the peers and the coaches do what they did, it kind of like made me like really kind of like drive to be a better person. And once that happened, that really woke up the fight. Like I said, I wanted to fight, but then I wanted to fight. So I fought within 6 to 8 months. My Thai fight, I did really good. I lost to a split decision, but I broke my opponent's ribs. So that was cool.
That's a plus.
Right. Right. He had a hard time leaving. Right. He was having a hard
he'll
time
remember you.
on,
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean...
And the funny thing is we were both jits guys. We were talking about it beforehand. But the problem was my kicks fucking sucked. Like at the time, I thought my leg kicks were good. But I like to this day, there's this, I don't know where the hell the link is, but there's a link of like a bunch of fights that night that was on like a really crappy camera that somebody had. And you can find my match in there. It looks terrible. Like I'm like, oh God, like this was like literally two jiu-jitsu guys that had no idea how to hit each other, just like whipping each other. And the other guy was from the promotions fight. So like I was already under the bus when it came. So it was crazy. But then I did the MMA fight and I won. I used jiu-jitsu. So I was like, all right, back to jiu-jitsu, but still do MMA and striking. And I fought for a while. And yeah.
So okay, so you start at that gym. How do you get mixed up with the ATT guys? Because I think that's something really interesting, that a lot of people who, love the sport, that's a name that they're going to recognize, right? I mean,
absolutely.
America Top Team is one of the best, if not the best gym.
I feel it's the best team.
Right. Well, of course you're going to think that. but I agree. There's so many notable fighters in the UFC and other promotions that come from ATT. So how do you go from there to there?
Okay, well, this is kind of where my wife today comes into play.
Great. I love your wife from today. She's the best.
Yeah, she is. She's an amazing person. I love that woman to death. So how this all started was at the gym I was at, and I'm not going to flame anybody. If y'all want to go and look, if y'all want to go and find out where I was beforehand, and who my coach was, you're more than welcome to. I started to get to the point where it was me and a couple of the other big fish, as we're called in the gym. We're training with each other all the time. And when you have 4 or 5 big fish training with each other all the time, and we hit a wall, you're expected to have a coach to answer that call and suit your needs. That never happened. In fact, it was a lot of teaching. Come to class and train, you show up. No, you're teaching tonight. Awesome, right? You know how much I was getting paid? Not much. I got like a couple of checks here and there, and that was it, okay? And I never really, and that's fine for me. But the problem that I had was, dude, I was a blue belt at the time. As a blue belt, you know the basics of jiu-jitsu, but you really don't. You just got out of the basics and you kind of are just kind of understanding the basics as a blue belt and adapting them into proper defense. This is how I look at the belt system if it's done correctly. You have a white belt who's just trying to understand how to swim, right? Once you learn how to swim, the next step is really understanding what you learned. From that position, it's like, okay, now you're a purple belt. Some purple belts are fucking killers because they figure it all out in the first 2 steps. That's just how it works. This is my opinion. No one has ever said this. This is how I look at it. I've dealt with some purple belts that are like over the top, just monsters. And it's because they got the basics down and then they figured out how to use it. And goddamn it, now they know how to defend and attack. But brown belt to me is when you really start learning how to utilize everything after proper defense. And then black belt, you're pretty much just like doing whatever the fuck you want and, you know, trying to work your game and figure out what's wrong because you understand the basics enough to roll when you need to roll. We were at a point where we're all purple, brown, and black. We're at this like there was, out of all the people that I was talking about, the squad at the time, we had a fighter we had actually 2 pro fighters on the team. And the guy that started the MMA Collective, John Nandor, who is one of the guys that I was talking about, he went to Abu Dhabi tryouts one year, and we were not properly coached beforehand. I did everything I could to help him, but I wasn't equipped at the time. I was just a purple belt. Like I had just got my purple belt. I knew some stuff. Everybody knew me as a leg lock guy, but to this day, they still know me as a leg lock guy. But like then I was just a purple belt. Like I still had a lot of holes in my game that need to be worked on. And I just showed up every day at the gym with John, and we trained. And you know, he went and, you know, he was told I tried to show him the best I could with leg locks, but honestly, I just knew how to attack. I didn't really know how to defend. When he went, he got subbed and he got pissed, and it was by a footlock, and he had talked to our instructor vehemently. And I was there one day where he had said on the mat, like, listen, man, I really need to work on leg lock defense before I go because I don't want to get subbed by a leg lock, you know, because I know they're going to see my game and they're going to know how I play and they're going to go for my legs right away type of deal. And he, you know, my instructor at the time just really dismissed it. And that was stupid. You have a guy on your team going to ADCC trials. That's the biggest show in the world. And he did that. And, you know, this dude got pissed. So he started cross training. And then he came across my professor now, Luigi Mondelli. So John met Luigi, started going to American Top Team Connecticut, where I still go to this day, multiple times a week. He was just like, he told me, he was like, listen, man, like you got to come down here and train with these guys. This is a different world. This is a different environment. It's a lot different. So I was like, all right, John, we'll go down with you one day. Right. So I went down with John, and that was it. So everything started happening the way it happened. We kept getting really frustrated at our home gym, but we kept cross training. This happened for a while. It was like bouncing back and forth. And then I was really frustrated one night after training at my home gym, and I came home, and I'm really passionate about what I do. I love what I do. It's not just work for me. It's just what I do. Right. It's my life. When I came home one night and I was just like crying, like, cause I was just like, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, you know? And Kels was like, you know, maybe you should think about making the switch. And I was like, all right, well, Kels is my wife, by the way. I kept saying my wife, but Kels is my wife. Okay, Kelsey. Yes. I love this woman to death. She's their owner and operator of the MMA Collective. And honestly, without her, this fucking shit would have sank a long time ago. So we all have to be fortunate for her running it. So she had said, you know, maybe think about making the switch. And there was still a little bit of loyalty here. I'll be real. So I had my second fight in New York. This was technically overall my fourth MMA fight. I fought 2 smokers out in Ohio, which were like literally in a barn. It was bullshit. I don't wrestling? Even consider it dude. Literally, there was hay bales
around the outside
no shit. Yep, that was real. Yeah, it was a concrete floor. I fought on a concrete floor. There was no mat. Yeah, it was shit. Yeah.
God.
Wow.
Damn.
And the other one had a wrestling. It had a wrestling like a wrestling mat on a concrete floor. So at least we had a thin piece of hard fucking mat on a cold concrete floor.
I lived in Kentucky. I lived in Kentucky for a year, and Kentucky and Ohio are right next to each other.
Yep.
All I'm gonna say is,
Yep.
I love anybody from Kentucky who's listening. I love you all. You guys had a huge impact of who I am now, but I'm not surprised. Continue.
Everybody from Ohio who's listening, get out. Get the fuck out. Leave. Okay. Anyway, especially Cleveland, get out. So, but when I got when I fought, you know, and I went the guy that I was training with MMA all the time, who the one pro, he ended up becoming my MMA coach, Keith Farish. Keith had a stint in the UFC. He was the Ring of Combat middleweight champion, which I could proudly say, you know, like me and him like worked really hard before that together, and that was actually around the same time. So right around that time, I have this other fight. My coach doesn't want to go to my fight, comes up with an excuse that ends up being bullshit, like 2 days later why he couldn't come. And I have Keith there and Ant Simmons, who was a constant person, like in there. He was a Kingston wrestler, heavyweight, great Greco, solid dude, and he was my corner too. And those dudes worked with me so fucking hard for this. And I fought that. I won. It was great, cool, awesome. And it was a weird thing though, because my opponent like dislocated his shoulder when I was taking his back.
I
so
saw
like,
that fight. It's on
yes,
YouTube. I
yep,
saw it.
yes,
it's
it
awesome.
is. Yeah. So it was like it was great because like he power bombed me and I was like, oh, I'm going up, you know, and then like I let go of the triangle and just do a break fall and I was completely fine. And he goes to throw a hammer fist. I used it to get the underhook. And I was like, in my head, I was like, motherfucker, I'm coming up. I'm taking your back. And the second I came up on top of him, I heard his shoulder just literally explode. Like my weight on top of him at that point in time and his hands down where they were, it just didn't work. And his shoulder went out. And I'm looking at him and he's like, kind of like, he's not screaming, but he's like letting me know, like, dude, I'm fucked. And he's like trying to like tap, but it was like a weird position.
There's a point in that video. There's a point in that video where you're looking at him, he's looking at you. You can tell he's in pain. You look at the ref looks at you, and you start to move away. And then everybody comes to the same realization of, oh shit. Like that was really funny to me, as obviously as unfortunate it was that the guy was hurt. But there is that one cool split second. There's a split second in that video where everyone's like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, it was real. Yeah, no, that was real time. Like when I got up and I looked at the ref, I'm like, I'm done. And the ref was like, what? And I'm like, he's
what
fucking hurt.
You're done?
I'm like, go look. Like, did you notice him not follow me over here? Like the guy still sprawled out, belly down on the canvas. Surprise, he's done. Like, yeah, that guy needed to possibly go back to ref school for a little bit. But after that, to get back to what we're talking about, how, you know, that went down, and my coach had posted this fucking thing at the time, and it was like, oh, you know, like, I know Tom's gonna want to fight again, and I'm proud of him and all this other shit, but like, again, like, no help preparing for the fight at fucking all. And which is something I can happily say. I don't think a single one of our fucking students will ever say this. You know, I say our students because we're on the same team, but you're not going to hear that. And I make it a point because I went through this. This is one of my like founding principles. Like I at least learned bad things to help everybody and learn what not to do, you know, especially as a coach. When that happened, I was like, I started getting sour and I started noticing things. And then some personal shit happened that was like deeply personal. Can't get into it too much, but when somebody who is, you know, in my eyes at the time, my coach was my coach, and he was the guy that I looked up to. And he had said some shit to me regarding my relationship with my wife today. Trying to get me to steer away from her at the time, because this was during a time that I had like I did not have a good first breakup, like with my wife, the first divorce that we had, like my first divorce, my only divorce, my divorce that I had. It was it was crazy because, you know, I had children involved, my kids were with me all the time. I felt like I never really had a chance to really like be emotional. So it like turned into like when my kids weren't around, like I kind of like really got like deep into just bad shit. Like because it was like I was venting to myself. It sucked. And this ended up with, you know, Kelsey and I getting together because she was her and Ryan were coming to the gym and I was Ryan's coach. And I, you know, this is a rule that I never break, but something with Kelsey and I just like kind of connected and never left. And something with Ryan and I actually connected and never left. So you know, I started seeing Kelsey. And during this time, my coach was like really fucking shitty about it. And he was like telling me, because he knew what was going on, because I was telling him, I was like, hey, look, I'm kind of dating a mom from the gym right now. Like, I don't, you know, and he's like, and he's like, oh, what? So then the one night I'm at Kelsey's apartment and there's a text message from somebody after I was just told about how much trouble this person was and how it's not going to bring anything great and all this crap, you know? And he's texting her like really vulgar shit, trying to hook up with her. I'm sitting right next to her, like as it's happening. And I'm like, this is my fucking coach.
Yeah, so
like,
basically dude, the ultimate backstab comes from the person that you're not only looking up to, but somebody you trust with essentially your life. And, you know, not to say that the gym is a dangerous place, but it can be.
No,
I mean,
no, at the end
it
of the
can
day, yeah.
be.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's fucked, man. I can understand. So from there you decide, okay, F this guy, F this gym, I'm out of here.
Wish it was that easy, but no.
Oh,
I actually
no.
stuck around. I stuck around for a while and I had
Should
my
have kept my
guard up.
mouth shut.
I had my guard up. And then one day, my buddy John invites me to breakfast. And he says, hey, I'm going to open a gym in Red Hook, but it's not going to be under where we're at. Like originally I said, it's going to be under Core BJJ, which is Professor Mondelli from American Top Team Connecticut. His specific brand of jiu-jitsu is Core Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we were going to open up a, you know, we're going to open up under him. We're going to open up a Core BJJ gym. And he wanted me to be a part of it. I said yes. And that was it. So we did that. It worked for a while. Unfortunately, the overhead of the place we were in was ridiculous. If you own a gym, if people out there own a gym, you know everything. When it comes to a gym, it's a fucking hard sell. It is a hard sell no matter what way you cut it. You have to deal with people like coming in and wanting to like train and then wanting to sign up, and then they do it, and then right away they're like, I don't really want to do this, you know, and then they do everything to get out of it. Or you have people that just like never come, or you have like there's just a lot of it's a hard gig. So if you open up a gym and you have a tall overhead, like the theory, everything he did, that place was amazing. We had a great fitness like center and awesome mat space. It just didn't work out for the rent, so he was forced to close after some time. When that happened, I ended up going to my buddy Tom Finch, who's my boxing coach now. He at the time he owned TNT Boxing in Kingston, and Kels and I started our own branch of Core Jiu-Jitsu over there. So once I had switched to my buddy John's gym, which is the MMA Collective, which is my gym now. Originally, he, you know, like that was the official time that I was officially under Luigi. But at the time, I was kind of still under John because it was his gym and I was going there.
Right.
Once that stopped, I kept going to Luigi and I became one of his students like full time.
And that's when you start doing your trips to Connecticut like routinely. So that's when you start doing the Connecticut and then coming back, and Connecticut and coming back. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And so like I mean I had been doing that before, but now it became more frequent.
You're right.
It wasn't like once a week to cross train. It was like, okay, I'm going like 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week. Right. So originally I was going down to ATT a lot. Like I was training, and it's not that far from where we are. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. I mean, 84 sucks asshole. So if the weather, if the road's really shitty, like, if they're not doing proper road work. Yeah, so I started going down there. I got my brown belt under Luigi, and then I got my black belt under Luigi, and I've been training with him ever since. Dude, yeah, I love that man. He's like a father to me.
So what made you then, so you're training at American Top Team. Now the MMA Collective was a great idea that, came and went, unfortunately, with the first incarnation of it. And now how do you become the MMA Collective,
we get back
to where we are now, to where you've got all these great students and you've got this great facility, and, we're doing what we got to do on a daily basis?
So, where we were in Kingston, TNT was an awesome spot. I learned so much as a coach there because it was the first time, Kelsey and I actually got thrown into the mix and were able to just do shit like for our program by ourselves without having to talk to anybody. Once that happened, we started realizing what's going to be successful, what's not going to be successful. And our relationship grew immensely from it. We realized we were like meant to be in business together too, like, which is why we still do what we do. Like, I can't imagine running the business without her. When it got to the point where, like we were having an issue with, there was a bunch of people that were downstairs from TNT that were businesses. There was like a wig store. Yes, a wig store.
It's in high demand. I mean, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Wigs, man. Well, it was on Broadway in Kingston. So wig store, dry cleaners, right? And then Domino's Pizza. TNT was above. Every single time we did any sort of movement on the mat where somebody hit something, right? Or it like hit the floor, the owner of the wig store would come up like vehemently yelling at us, right? So this ended up like developing this, like, it was ridiculous because some days, I mean, and there was multiple instructors. You had a wrestling instructor. I was there teaching jits. Tom's there teaching MMA and boxing. And then you got like this other dude that was teaching boxing really late at night. And so we had all kinds of crap going on at all hours of the night, all hours of the day. You didn't really know what was going on. So if you were downstairs and you weren't expecting, like, I don't know, like a 400-pound tire being flipped across the mat, you might jump. But after a while, you'd be like, oh, there's a gym up there. I get it. Not these folk. Nope. So right next door, there was this place, ironically called the People's Place. I have no issue saying who this person is, by the way. And the woman that owns the People's Place, would not renew our lease because of the
everybody
noise.
else was just so
she
aggravated.
Hated the fact that it was an MMA gym in there.
Right. Okay.
And meanwhile, we had a leaking roof, all this other crap. And like, Tom did everything he possibly could to keep the place and try to see like what we could do about it. It never really worked out. It came time for us to find a new spot. We were not in a place to do it. I went back to work. I was just like, I'm going to go back to work. And I had a really crappy point of my time where I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, it's just, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't afford to find another place. Like, we had found a really good place that we thought would be nice. Like Kelsey and I, we went and looked at it, but it just, at the end of the day, the numbers weren't there. And, right now, like, spoiler alert, this is something I haven't said. We have 4 children in this household, right? They obviously come first. So once that happened, and we looked at the numbers, there was just no way we could do it. We couldn't make rent. We couldn't do that. So I went back to work. Kels went back to work. I was just training at ATT when, it was like 3 times a week. I was making it down there, and then started working security at a bar. While I was there, ran into John one night, and I was telling him what was going on. And he was like, hey, I'm actually going to open the MMA Collective again in Red Hook. And it was in the building we're in now. And so I was like, fucking, yeah, I'll talk to Kels, let me let you know. And so I did, and I came back as an instructor. That went on for like, it was a couple of years, I think. And then it got to the point where Kels and I had come into some money. I had offered to buy the business from John, because I know that he's very, 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 very much involved. He's like Glover Teixeira's like current grappling coach in the UFC. Like he's the big tall bald dude
No
that
big
walks
deal.
out with Glover. Yeah,
no
not
big
at
deal.
all.
Yeah, not
So,
a name drop. No big deal.
Yeah, so like the whole thing is like, originally John had originally told me when we got together and started this, he had said to me like, I want to start this, and I initially want you to take it over. And in a weird turn of events, it wasn't how we initially intended, but it happened. Like, it got to the point where I was like, I felt like it was the time. I had just had ACL surgery again, right? But like I was like, when I come back, I think I'm going to be ready, because I had just got my black belt. I got an ACL surgery, and I felt like I was ready to do it. So we worked it out. He handed the business off to me. We paid him a fee, and we took over, and that was it.
What year was that?
That's what you got now. Okay, so this was originally 2016 is when I want to say, I want to say it was 2018.
Okay.
I want to say it was 2018. I could be wrong. It could be a year earlier, a year later.
Okay, but around
right
about
around there.
Around 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, and we did everything that we did, and fortunately, Luigi and his wife Sylvia, took Kels and I like essentially under their wing. They showed us how to do it. We just followed what they told us. Everything they say, that his word is gospel in my eyes. Like, I just take it and I go, and it really went well, and we're at where we're at now. And we made it through COVID, which was fucking crazy, but that was nuts. But I mean, we're still standing. It worked.
Yeah. Well, one thing I do want to say is, so obviously, I joined your gym in January 2020, right before all the BS happened, with COVID. But, like I said, from the beginning, you guys made it a place that welcomed not only me, but my younger brother and my stepfather as well. We came in as a trio, and we're still all there. And there's nothing more that I look forward to, like that keeps my mental health in a place of, unfortunately right now I'm only being able to make it the one day a week, but every Thursday, that's the day where my mental health finally goes, yes, we're here. It is time.
I appreciate that,
because it is with the stress of, just everyday life or the stress of work or whatever. I tell this to people all the time. When you're at the gym, especially if you're at striking class, you have no choice but to think about nothing but what's going on, or else you're gonna
it's real. Yeah,
or else you're gonna get fucking hit.
Chaos, man. That's why I love jiu-jitsu. I love wrestling, and I love Muay Thai, because no matter what, and boxing too, no matter what, you're just kind of like thrown in there, and once it's time, it's fucking time. Like, it's chaos.
Exactly.
Time.
You don't have
to
time.
Deal with it. You don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't have time to think about anything else. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life. It doesn't matter what's going on in your world. If you're at that class for that hour and a half, hour, 2 hours, however much that time is, you can't physically think about anything else. So, whether you're upset about a relationship, or you're upset about your dog passing away, or if you're upset because you got into a fight with your aunt, or whatever the case is, or maybe you're having financial trouble, you can't think about that while you're there. So it's such a great vacation for your mind to take. So my point being is, me and my fiance had bought this house. Now we are a lot farther away from you than we were originally. Before it was a 15-minute drive for me. Now it's about 45 minutes. But there was a period of time where I was like, man, logistically, this fucking sucks. I love going there. I love these people. I love the environment. But man, what if there's a gym 5 minutes from my house? What if there's a gym 10 minutes from my house? And so I had contemplated going somewhere else, and not for any other reason other than the fact that after working a long day or, whatever, it was just 5 minutes away. And
No, I
I never,
understand that.
I
Yeah.
never trained anywhere else, but I did make some phone calls and I was looking and I was contemplating. And eventually I was just like, man, I can't do that. I was like, I just can't. I said, I don't care if it's an hour. I don't care if it's an hour and a half. I don't care if I was originally going 3 days a week and now I can only make it 1 day a week. Like, I have to continue going to this gym. I don't care if the gym I go to has a boxing ring, an MMA cage, a full-fledged, workout area, and all these mats, and there's a professional UFC fighter in there that trains on Saturdays. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't, I mean, I was just like, I just don't care. The environment that you guys created, and then obviously, me, you, and your wife Kels, we got close. We're all friends on Facebook. I love shooting the shit with you. I love talking shit with you. I love joking around with you. I love sending you memes. I just couldn't do it. And it wasn't like I was even close where I was like about to call you and be like, yeah, I'm out. I had made a couple phone calls, and then I just finally I was like, man, no, it's just not. I don't care how far away it is. I'm gonna keep going.
And I honestly, that's real. And, obviously, dude, I fucking really appreciate everything you just said. Like that. Thank you. But
I don't want to get mushy, whatever,
Yeah.
Too much heavy shit in this fucking podcast anyway.
Yeah. But, yeah, right. But with that, I've been in the same boat, man. Like I found a gym in Ohio that I really loved going to. And it was so much better than the gym I ended up going to. It's a shitty situation. Like when you move and you're regionally, like, so I get that being like, well, I fucking can't really go as much as I used to. But also that being said, after I moved and I switched gyms, I ended up going back. I ended up driving the extra hour to go back to the gym that I originally had left to go to this other gym, which is literally 15 minutes from where I was living. But I did that a couple of times. And then after a while, it was just like, it wasn't the same vibe as that one. That stuck with me for a while too. I always thought about that. And that's why we try to do what we do. Like, I don't know, man, like the team's a team. I played sports for a while growing up. I wasn't with it in high school because that's when things kind of started getting crazy. But when I did play sports, like, I always took on the team aspect. And when we started our own division of the team, just by what our coach does and everything, I just look at that. I'm like, I got to emulate that. So I'm glad that I can make you feel that way. That means a lot to me, man.
It's also just not in my makeup, in my being to be able to do that, because like, listen, I know you said you're not like an overall sports guy, but I'm a Knicks fan and I'm a Jets fan, and those are two of the worst franchises in either sport. Like, the amount of playoff wins that both teams have had in the last 10 years,
Surprised
I can count on one hand.
Right.
That's what I mean. So like, it's just not in me. I couldn't do it. And I did. I wrestled back and forth with it. And I was just like, maybe the price was a little bit cheaper and maybe it's only 5 minutes down the road. And then I was like, man, these people have been nothing but cool to me and my family. Not only that, all the people that train there are really cool. I was like, I could never do that, and I won't do it. As long as you guys are open and there, I'm there. So, but it's just great. But I
appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man. I know, and I appreciate you. I want you to kind of speak on, like, you guys have built such a great culture there. So how did it start? Is it just because of who you guys are as people, or is it a lot from, your mentor was Luigi, right? Luigi, like, you said you take everything from him.
Still is, not even was, he still is. Like, honestly, I think it was like last week we had some shit going on. We just always go to Luigi. My wife and I are like literally all the time we go to him. That is something to really truly be said about why I'm a part of Core Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, coming from no coaching, like I had coaching when I started, something happened, and now I honestly understand how life affects everybody. Okay. But I had no coaching for a while when I really needed coaching. And then going to having what we had, like, I have learned so much from how Luigi does things. I was like, I just wanted to be a part of Core immediately. So when we decided we're going to start our own thing, we knew John and, we were already a part of Core. I didn't want that to change because Luigi treated us like family. The second I walked in that gym, my wife, our sons, like, my daughter, right? Everybody that's come into that gym has been treated like they were fucking part of his family. That's what did it. I'm not gonna lie. That's what did it. It's nothing else. I mean, we've been like personally, our whole thing is we're very big with our kids program. Because Kels and I both went through some really unfortunate stuff as children. And so like I do think that does play a role into it, because we do want everybody to feel like safe, but we also like we want everybody to have a safe environment. I don't want to say safe space, but like, we want to get it to the point where
There's a
everybody's
comfortable area. Yeah. Not a safe space, but a comfortable. Like you can
exactly.
walk in and like I walk in sometimes and I
You
don't
could be
know some
anybody.
of the people from the class previously, and I'm just like, hey, what's up, man? I don't know your
Yep,
I don't know your fucking
exactly.
name, but you're here, you're cool.
Yep,
So
exactly. And that's I appreciate that, and that's what we try to do. I don't know, man. It was just from being in a poison environment when we were in it, you can learn a lot from the negative just as much as you learn from the positive. And that's something just to take in hand. I mean, we have days that's just shit, but those days you're going to learn the most, I think. And we had between Luigi and what we went through negatively, you had such a strong positive and such a strong negative to learn from. I feel like you can't fuck it up. And honestly, like with Kels and I've never worked with another person like I work with her. Like, and I don't, not to get back in the whole aliens and fucking
let's bring it back full circle. Let's do it.
But like, I feel like, honestly, with her, like, I can't think of many people that I would have, been able to do the things that I've done with if it wasn't who she is. So when we did this, I don't know, man, it just really worked out well. And it is the chemistry it is. Do I have an explanation for it? I'll tell you what I did. I'll tell you what I learned. Yeah, I learned from mistakes. I learned from Luigi. Right. But bro, it's what it is, man. And
really what it comes down to,
it is what it is, bro.
What it comes down to is the aliens. It really, if it wasn't for aliens, if it wasn't for aliens, you guys. Aliens. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing to explain how the stars aligned perfectly and you guys came together, man. Well, that's great. So, again, I can't say enough good things about the gym. I really can't. But maybe let's get into some kind of funny stories of things that's happened at the gym. Let's maybe not say anybody's names, but top 5,
no, we won't.
Top 5 funniest things that happened at the gym, funny stories, whatever. And I do want to preface this by talking about the culture of the gym, because I don't want to forget to leave this out. If you want to know what kind of place this is, the only thing that needs to be said is every time you walk into the front door, you are greeted by your 6-year-old son saying something so funny that I can't even, half the time I have no idea what the fuck he's saying, but as soon as you open the door, he's like, hey, something, something, something. And it always makes me laugh. So that's that kind of comfortable environment you're in as soon as you walk in.
Yep. So I appreciate that. Yeah, no, he's a fucking card. He said some shit today. So the other day, we had like a pretty intense class, and the adults are going at it, and this one guy walks off the mat, and he's like, and we're like literally on the last roll. This is the last roll of the day, and this dude's a full-grown adult. Okay, my 6-year-old son sitting there with my wife, and the guy goes over to my wife, and he's like, man, that was rough. And she's like, yeah, but you did good. Your cardio is getting better. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I made it the whole time. And without missing the beat, Cash is like, you didn't make it the whole time. Class isn't over. And he's just like looking at him. And my wife's like, well, you know who his father is, right? So, but yeah, no, that really is it. All of my kids have grown up in the gym environment. My first son, Oliver, literally was in a car seat on the mat. So was Cash. I would take him with me training, make sure that his sleep schedule was during my training schedule. So I'd make sure he'd be fed, ready to go, have a bottle. By the time I gave him a bottle in the car seat on the mat, he'd fall asleep while we beat the shit out of each other for like an hour and a half, and then I would leave. Like that's just what we did. When Kelsey and I had Cash, that was our first and only child together. We never really stopped. I mean, Cash, from her being like he was going to the Glover Texera training camp in her stomach. Yeah. Like, you know, like she was pregnant during that time. And yeah, man, I don't even know. It's crazy. That is what it is. Some of the craziest stuff that has happened at the gym. I mean, I've been in for a while. I have some highlights that we'll go off on. The best was we'll go from like funny because it's like a dude that deserves to get his ass kicked, getting his ass kicked, and then we'll go to, you know, like disgusting, because I've seen it, and you got a couple that you're gonna be like, oh man, right? And then we'll just go to just plain funny. We had a dude who, when I first started training and I was still a white belt, he comes in off the street, and he was the meme of the undefeated street fighter. Like he was that guy, right?
All right.
And so he comes in, and he, first of all, he goes to the back. He doesn't have a gi. He comes into a jiu-jitsu class saying that he wants to fight. So he's at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class where you have to wear a gi, right? So I don't understand. Some people don't understand it. I did have a phone call actually the other day where a woman literally said to me, my boyfriend is interested in fighting for paid wages. Let me know what we have to do. Yeah, I'll set that up real quick.
Yeah,
right?
just send them to the gym down the
right
street.
to Dana.
Yeah.
Here you go. But this guy's like, he shows up, he goes in the back, and the first thing he does, at the time our instructor was a professional MMA fighter, and he had a purple belt. And he's on the mat teaching. He's got his purple belt on. The guy comes in late, and the first thing he says is, I can't believe you wear a purple belt. That is such a gay color. I swear to God, he said this. Okay. So we're like, everybody in the gym, it was like, you know, like that.
Oh God.
Like you walk into like a fucking saloon and the record skips, you know? We're like, all right. So everybody looks up like, what the fuck, right? So this guy goes in the back. Instructor held it tight too, right? He was cool about it. He goes in the back. He's like, okay.
What color do you think's cooler? Black?
Yeah, he's like white, blue, purple, brown, black. That's the, you know, that's the colors. Like that's how it goes. So he goes, he says to me, he's like, he says some shit. And I was like, there's extra gis in the back. And the instructor helps him in the back. And he's talking to the instructor. And I hear the instructor say to him, like, yeah, well, you know, you've got some extra gis and blah, blah, blah. And this guy's like talking like, he's like, wow, I want to fight, you know? And he's like, well, we're doing grappling today. He was like, what's grappling? And I'm like, all right. He's like, well, we're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu right now. He goes into this whole thing. And this guy's just being a shithead. So he finally leaves, comes back to class. And guy's still in the back getting ready. Dude gets on the mat, and I shit you not, he had tied his belt in a bow. Like a bow.
Like, yep, I got
like
it.
little
Like
bow
a big,
yeah, like a
bunny
Christmas
ears.
bow. Yeah.
He crisscrossed and pulled.
So, yeah. And then he proceeds to like just crap all over everything that's being taught. So a couple of days later, we have Muay Thai, and there's like, you know, there's sparring afterwards. So we go to class. He's in class. I actually didn't see much from him during class, so I don't know how that went. I don't think it went well because my instructor at the time fucking hated him. Like by the time we got to sparring.
Well, if you walk into a gym like an asshole, you're not gonna, you know, be well regarded.
But wait, there's more. So he spars, and he gets to go with this guy who was a really cool guy. He was like in his late 30s. Was a pretty solid, you know, he's like a pretty solid, he's a pretty solid black belt when it comes to karate. And so he did all stand up before. Nothing like too crazy, but he gets in with him and they start, sparring a little bit. And this dude's going easy because he's a black belt in karate. He's not going to try to do any of this crap, He's not going to try to just knock the dude out. It's not right. Well, lo and behold, this dude touches this guy's glove. This is the street guy, and throws the overhand right from hell and knocks the karate black belt right off the touch of the glove out on his feet. Like, he went stiff and was snoring before he hit the ground. And I'm like, what the hell? So
that's like the worst possible case scenario at that moment in time, because there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than the person who already has all this confidence that's not warranted, right? And then they actually do something to make that ego even bigger. But I'm sure retribution comes shortly after.
Well, here's the shitty part, because, I've been on the other end of it where I've accidentally choked somebody out training. I've been on the other end of it where I've accidentally hurt somebody training, and you don't celebrate. That's the thing. Like, it happens. It's a real thing. It was a cheap shot, but like, it happened. I think it would have been better for him if he didn't do what he did. After he knocks him out, he holds his hands up in the air like he just won the fucking heavyweight title and starts walking.
He gets on the top turnbuckle
and throws his fucking gloves off, right? So we had one professional fighter in the house at the time. That dude comes up like out of the floor and was just like, all right, we're
the Undertaker from a casket.
Dude, yep. This guy leaves the gym. He actually left the gym that day. Comes back again, gets kicked out by the coach. And then finally, the grand finale, I'm pretty sure he was arrested for like ODing on heroin. So that's how it ends up. But that was one of the craziest fucking things and funniest things I've seen in terms of like an asshole. I've also had somebody completely shit their pants in class.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yep, it was.
I
really
can see
bad.
how that's possible. So I'm afraid to even laugh.
Hold on. So, yeah,
because I feel like it can happen to me, right? Because that's something that's so possible.
This guy comes in and he, he's like, "Oh, I've trained jiu-jitsu before, all this stuff, and he's like, he wants to do jiu-jitsu in our class. So I'm all about it. I'm like, yeah, come try it. So I did tell him, I'm like, you don't have to do warm-ups all the way. You could sit out if you need to. Like I tell everybody, right? Because our warm-ups can be fucked up, right? So we start going and he's like, he starts going, and like by the end of warm-ups, he's like done, right? So he made it through though. I got to give him that credit. But he also borrowed a white gi. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm setting the scenario, right? Yeah, right. So he goes in and he starts getting into the drill. And he gets through the drills, but he's like really laboring, he's sweating, he's like breathing heavy, he's going in and out of the bathroom, he's taking breaks. I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes, right? So he comes out, it comes time to roll. First roll, right? I see what looks like he's in the guy's guard. It looks like just this big, like a little hole of a brown spot right on his asshole, his pants, right? Hold on. And I'm looking, I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden, it just starts to grow like an ink blot. Like I'm looking into, like I'm supposed to look into it and tell a therapist what the fuck I'm seeing, right? So, I can't even say anything, right? But I didn't have to. I don't know if my telekinetic abilities were up that day or something. The second I was so taken back and being like, oh my God. Where like as I inhaled to be like, dude, go to the bathroom, he just ran off the mat. But then he came back into class, right? And he had different pants on, but
the damage was done.
The aroma was still there. Like, it was rough. Yeah. I had
God.
another one is this is a good grappling story. The only time I've ever had anybody actually oil check me was a female when I rolled with her, and I was that was crazy. If you guys don't know what an oil check is, it's an old wrestling term for when you do something that's called a butt drag, which is like if you're in referees. I'm gonna give you if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, referees or turtle position. It's where you're either on your elbows and your knees or your hands and your knees on all four, right? And there's a person on top. I understand how if you don't know what this is, this sounds like a porn, but it's not. I promise you, right? So this isn't going to help this.
My
argument.
fiance, when we watch UFC, when we watch like MMA on TV, my fiance is always like, why do they go? Can't this just be boxing? It always looks like they're fucking each other.
And that's what I do for a living. But this the referee's position of the butt drag is where you kind of like go around and you get an underhook, right? Where you take your arm and you hook it on a limb normally, whether it be an arm or a leg. The key word here is butt drag. So when you underhook in this position, you're actually just underhooking the crotch. So from that position, we have what's called the oil check, where people will just throw it in. They don't even try to underhook like the body, and they just take two fingers and right up the butthole. Just for the simple situation. Why? Because that guy's he's losing his base. Because you just that's how bad some people want to win, right?
So I'm proud to say this has never happened to me. And if it does,
I pride myself on that, sir, and I'm going to keep it up, right? But the only time it's happened to me rolling is I'm rolling with this chick that weighs like 119 pounds, right? And I weigh like fucking 240 on a good day, okay? So like I'm here, I'm rolling with her. I'm just trying to like move like I would roll with a kid, right? Rolling is sparring jiu-jitsu for those that don't know. Like, so we're like moving around, like I'm trying to put her in locks, but not really because I'm not using my size and strength. And at one point in time, I'm just like, I'm going to go to turtle and just let her take my back. That's what I thought the suitable answer was. But when I went to turtle, I got a finger up my ass.
And then you tap right then and there.
It worked.
Yeah.
I gave up position pretty quickly. And that's the only time that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I think on that note, listen, Tom, we are about an hour and 20 minutes into this. We are definitely going to do this again. Again, I was so excited to do this.
I really want to do it again. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was awesome. Listen, man, plug anything you want to plug right now. Plug the business, plug where it's at, who to call, who to contact, everything you need to plug right now. Okay.
Okay. All right. So right off the bat, anybody out there, I know with everything going on, coming back from 2020, shit is hard. If you could donate to anything, this is I did a super fight under Tap Cancer Out for this benefit. I've donated to this benefit multiple times. I would like everybody out there, if you can, donate to Alex's lemonade stand. It's for childhood cancer. Obviously, it's a cause that's really near and dear to me. I went through it as an adult. No child should go through this shit. Like that's something that I feel like really strongly about. So there's that. Defense soap. If you work, actually, this is funny because this covers multiple things. If you work with a lot of dirt, a lot of grime, things like that, if ringworm is an issue, like we use it because we're rolling around with dudes on the mat, sweating all the time. Wrestlers, jiu-jitsu people use it a lot. Kills ringworm and staph and MRSA and all this like stuff. I've used defense for my entire grappling career. They've been my first and still current sponsor. And the other thing that I just want to plug is obviously, hey, if you want to train, you want to become into a friendly environment, MMA Collective, Core BJJ, Red Hook, New York. We're on East Market Street. You can't really miss us. We got these two big glass windows right out front,
Right.
one with a flame, one with a triangle and hook. Come in, visit the MMAcollective.com, hit us up on Instagram at the MMA Collective, on Facebook at the MMA Collective. Feel free to come in. There's no strings attached for your first come in. We just want you to come in, give it a try. We offer a lot of deals and packages. And Hunter, man, I thank you. This was beautiful.
Hey, man. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Hey, Tom, that was great, brother.